How's it going, everybody? Darby here with GenAIUniversity.com, and in today's episode of the GenAI University Scale with AI Summit Series, I'm going to be showing you how you can leverage Claude Sonnet 3.7 here in 2025 to write a book, at least getting your idea and your outline out of your head and onto paper using Claude's technology to help with formulating and extracting that idea and turning it into a fully fleshed out outline that you can take and expand on inside of a project in Claude. And we're going to do this without the need for an expensive ChatGPT Pro subscription, which right now is $200. And we're not going to use any other tools in this process. We're going to use Claude, and I'm going to show you exactly how I would take a book project from an interview from a client and take that client interview and utilize Claude to set the project up, to extract the idea for the book from that interview, and to come up with a fully fleshed out outline, and then begin to start drafting each individual section of the book. Now, of course, with AI and generative AI technology in general, you want to make sure that there's a human in the loop, making sure the tech is actually giving you the information that you're looking for, that it's going in the right direction. I really like to start with and preface with the fact that Claude and any other large language model is so much more effective, at least the way that I utilize these tools, and I know a number of other people do, in not starting from scratch and starting from zero and then building to create content, but using it to augment your existing content creation process. And we're going to use the process here with a demonstration from a book that I helped ghostwrite several years back at the very beginning of Jasper back in February timeframe of 2021, where I was hired by Austin Distel, Jasper's CMO, to help him with writing out his book, Subscription Secrets, which he published inside of our 7-day book challenge. Now, the book that Austin and I wrote together, called Subscription Secrets, was about how to effectively start and launch $1 million subscription-based business. And that was before, for context, before Jasper, which was then called Conversion AI, and Jarvis shortly after. That was before they blew up and became one of the fastest growing startups of all time. And Austin was the CMO in that role. So I think it's safe to say that Austin knows what he's talking about. And this was before that entire tidal wave really hit us. And I'm talking about a year and a half before ChatGPT was even a thing. At the time of writing that book, I interviewed Austin. This was part of our very first cohort of the 7-day book challenge. I interviewed him in about a 3.5-hour interview that I just found on my Google Drive. I totally forgot that I had saved this interview somewhere, and I found it on my Google Drive, and I looked at it and I said, wow, there's a lot of information here. And a lot of really good information, but back when we did this initial interview, we were using Jasper to help with extracting some of that interview information. And then at Jasper, as the AI of choice back then, we were taking the concepts out of Austin's head. We were breaking it down in a totally different format than you're going to see today. And quite frankly, it was a very choppy process, and it took a lot of iterations and back and forth. And at the quality and the capabilities of AI models nowadays are light years ahead of where they were back in February timeframe of 2021. And so I'm going to show you exactly how I would take that process that we took for the 7-day book challenge and extracted it from Austin's head, and how I would go about approaching that project if I were to do it today. And for some context, for those of you that aren't familiar with our framework on building a book and writing a book in 7 days using the 7-day book challenge framework, the whole concept revolves around the idea of a minimum viable book. An MVB is what we call it. And this is the minimum book that you need to get the idea out and the point across, so that you can start to get feedback and make iterations on it from the feedback that you're getting from your ideal target audience, from your advanced readers. And we're going to use Claude because Claude's newest model, 3.7 Sonnet, I've been using it the last few days, and it just came out recently. It is incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to writing and keeping context in place. And I've been testing with a number of different projects not related to book writing and have been pleasantly surprised with how well it keeps the structure of the information. It doesn't hallucinate, and not that it doesn't entirely hallucinate. AI models are always subject to some level of hallucination right now, but it is keeping that context from the information I'm giving it very well. And so I wanted to shoot this video and share with you here in 2025, it's March 4th when I'm recording this, how you can go and follow this process to get the job done. And this isn't to say that there's no work involved. There's obviously the need for a human in the loop in any sort of writing or authoring process when it comes to writing a book that you're going to put your name on. But AI helping you getting that first draft fleshed out is an incredible time saver, and it takes a lot of those mental calories that you're going to burn off your plate and frees you up to be a little bit more strategic and get into the state of being more of the editor in chief rather than painstakingly looking to write this out just from hand or without the use of AI. And it's not new that authors would use dictation and voice notes to voice chapters and then have those voice notes transcribed and turned into different chapters by an editor. What this is doing is effectively condensing the time that it would take to do that process into a fraction of the time it would traditionally have taken several years ago. And the structure of the 7-day book challenge and how I'm going to start and show you how you can get going writing this process yourself. Obviously, I'm not going to write the entire book in this video, but it all starts on day one with the who, the what, the where, and the why of what you're doing. First thing you need to do whenever you're going to be writing a book, and what you'll see we do throughout this video and sticking with me to the end, how we'll see the full outline come from this initial idea, is who we're writing it to, what's the purpose of the book, why does it matter now, and what are you going to do with this, and what is the person that is going to be reading this book going to do with the information. And once you can identify what that is and considering what the ultimate outcome is that someone's going to get as a result of reading the book, we can then move on to day two, which is fleshing out the outline. If you don't have an outline, you don't have a plan, you don't have an end in mind, and it's easy to go off the rails in a number of different directions, especially with AI. And so before we even get into the formal writing process and writing out chapters or introductions or anything of that nature, we need to make sure, one, that we know who we're writing the book to and why we're writing it in the first place, and then creating that structured outline, because then days 3, 4, and 5 inside of the challenge historically have been pretty much just getting your head down and writing to day 6, where it's all about editing and refining that writing, and then day 7, clicking publish. And over the years, we've seen hundreds of people now, and if not thousands of people, using AI just from inside of our own communities and through our YouTube channels, and what we see with our other partners and other publishers in the space that are harnessing this technology. You might see different approaches to writing a book, and that's totally fine. In this case, we're not talking about fiction books. We're talking about nonfiction, more business-related books, as this is going to be something of a how-to, so to speak, of how to start a subscription-based business. And Austin, from his experience and perspective, is going to be sharing, and did share with me inside of this interview that we're turning into a book, how he did that. And you can actually go and find Subscription Secrets on Amazon. You can review it, buy it, whatever you want to do. You can see how it was written and the quality of the content from what it was back then. And you can compare that to how we're going to be drafting it right now. And I would just encourage you to look at this with an open mind and see where the possibilities of going through this process with Claude and your own ideas, how you can extract that book idea that's been sitting around in your head, how you can get that book onto paper, and how you can follow a very simple structured format from extracting that idea to then creating an outline and then filling in the pieces of that outline. So with all that said, let's go ahead and dive in to the How to Write a Book with Claude in 2025, the Gen AI University Scale with AI podcast series. Let's rock and roll. All right, y'all. So you can see here I am inside of Descript, and this is the interview that I found in my Google Drive buried from early 2021. My interview with Austin was a 3.5 hour interview extracting the idea of his book idea. And then we used this interview to inform the contents of his minimum viable book that we wrote inside of the 7-day book challenge. Obviously, you can see the hair back then is a little bit different, and a lot has changed over the years. But one thing, especially that has changed the most, is how AI tools have evolved to help with streamlining and supporting the writing of the process and extracting this idea and organizing information from a human's head to formatting it inside of what we'll be creating here is the outline to then draft a book. So what I'm going to be doing first here, now that I've already done the interview, so I've already, let's just say I was scheduling a consulting call with a client to do the initial discovery for their book idea. I would have that interview. That's on you to do, you and the client, or however you go about that process. And then once you have that interview, I've now got the information in the form of a transcript that I will use as the context to inform a new Claude project. So I'm going to go ahead and download a copy of this transcript. Inside of Descript, I can just go to Export, Transcript. I can export that transcript. Now that I've got the transcript exported, I'm going to open up Claude. Good morning, GenAI University. What can Claude help you with today? I could start right here, but what I would encourage you to do instead of just starting right away is actually setting up a project for yourself first in Claude. And so inside of Claude, you're going to want to go and start a new project. And the reason you want to do this is because you will be able to create your own knowledge-based set that it will refer to when you are writing and creating content. And that's important because you want it to reference specific information and stay on track with that information and keep yourself organized in the process. I'm going to say Austin Book 2.0, what we're writing to achieve. So we're just going to give it some context about what we're going to be creating here. And now we have a project set up inside of Claude. And some important things to note here is the project knowledge is going to be where you can upload specific context. So if I have this interview, that's great. If Austin provided me with additional resources, like maybe case studies that he wanted to incorporate, maybe specific PDFs or infographics or information that would be helpful and useful inside of including into the book, I would want to upload that project knowledge here so that, as you can see, there's no knowledge added yet. You can add PDFs, documents, or other text to the project knowledge that Claude can reference and base with every project conversation. So every new conversation would then effectively be able to reference this in its context window, which is really helpful when you're using an LLM to make sure that it's staying on track and referencing that information. So what I'm going to do is upload my text from a device. You can see here, I can add text context. I can also connect it right now with GitHub, Google Drive, depending on when you're watching this. May look a little different, but ultimately it's going to operate the same. So I'm going to upload that interview, and you can see that was about 27% of the knowledge capacity used. And you can see the project has a certain context window size. This is a 3.5 hour interview. So there's a lot of context inside of here, very large file, as we've noted. But now that I've got this interview added in to the project knowledge, I can see here I'm selecting my model. Right now I have the Claude 3.7, their most intelligent model yet. Again, depending on when you're watching this, Claude may have released an updated version of their model. If that's the case, I would encourage you to test out whatever model that is. Oops. But in this instance, we have the latest from Claude, and then you can choose a style. So you can choose a normal, default response, concise, explanatory, and then formal. And you can also create and edit style. So if you go to create and edit style, you can create a custom style outside of the presets. But I'm actually going to go to the explanatory style because we're going to be in a book. It's going to be more educational. I want to make sure that we include more information, not lose context as we're writing it out, because we can always remove words. And in the second round of the draft, and this is getting us to that first draft 80% of the way faster, don't forget that. So now that I've got the context here, I've actually developed a prompt that I would be using to extract the initial starting point for this book. And I'm going to paste that prompt in here. So now we see this prompt that you can take the transcript from this video. You can see this prompt right here. You could come up with your own effectively. But the essence of this prompt is you are provided a transcript of a 3+ hour deep interview where a client shared details, raw insights aimed at extracting their book from their head. Your task is to 1. Summarize the key insights, reading through the transcript and identify the most recurring themes, pivotal moments, and powerful quotes that reveal the core message and ideas. 2 is extracting the book idea. Based on the insights, distill a single compelling book idea. This should capture the essence of the conversation in one clear statement. 3, generating a detailed outline. Create a chapter-by-chapter outline that logically organizes the book idea. For each chapter, provide a title and a brief description explaining what the chapter will cover. Ensure the structure flows naturally from introduction to conclusion. And 4, be direct and actionable. Provide your output in clear, concise language without jargon or fluff. Tell it like it is. Now that we have that information, I'm going to select enter and we'll let Claude go to work. So here we can see book idea extraction, interview analysis of the key insight summary. So after analyzing the 3+ hour interview with Austin Distel, I've identified the core themes and insights. The conversation centers around building subscription-based businesses that generate predictable recurring revenue. Austin distinguishes 3 phases of subscription businesses: start, 0 to 100K MRR. MRR is monthly recurring revenue for reference point. Grow is 80 to 250K MRR, and then scale 250 to $1 million+ MRR. The interview focuses primarily on the start phase. Austin emphasizes a customer-centric approach throughout, repeatedly stating, "Don't be romantic about your product, be romantic about your customer." He describes the pain points of traditional business models: unpredictable revenue, difficulty hiring, inability to take vacations, versus the stability of subscription models. The interview details the methodology approach. The interview details a methodical approach to building subscription businesses, conducting problem discovery interviews with potential customers, which coincidentally is a great way to also utilize Claude. Once you get those interviews out, you can use Claude to extract more information from those problem discovery interviews. Creating minimal viable products, and Austin refers to these as cupcakes, and because you bake a cupcake first before you want to create a full wedding cake. Launching with early access rather than beta, and using social proof to drive adoption. Austin shares his insights from experiencing with Proof, Conversion AI, now Jarvis, and other subscription businesses, emphasizing the importance of rapid iteration, tight feedback loops, and creating moments of wow that convert customers into evangelists. Key quotes that encapsulate the philosophy: beta is for broke. Beta means that it's broken and it will leave you broke. Don't sell transactions, sell transformations. Sales isn't revenue, explaining how subscription models allow revenue to continue even when sales temporarily stop. And if you fall in love with your customers and not your product, you'll always win because they'll tell you what to sell them. Now we get into the book idea. The subscription starter: how to build $1 million ARR, that's annual recurring revenue business, by solving real customer problems. This book will provide entrepreneurs with a practical roadmap for creating subscription-based businesses that generate predictable recurring revenue, focuses on the critical first phase of building a subscription business from idea to $1 million in annual recurring revenue through customer-centric validation, minimum viable product development, and community-driven growth strategies. And so now we have the extracted ideas that we can see up here for the first part of it. Key quotes in the philosophy. This is a time machine for me right now, taking me back to early 2021 and going through this interview. And then the idea for the book. And so it came up with a book title called The Subscription Starter. Austin initially went with the title Subscription Secrets. So it's similar, and the subtitle is similar as well. But now we see the detailed chapter by chapter outline. So we see chapter 1, why subscription is the future of business. Description introduces the fundamental shift of transaction-based to subscription-based business models. Explained how subscription businesses create predictable revenue reduced anxiety and build valuable customer relationships, contrasting the hell island of traditional businesses with heaven island of subscription models. Then we get into chapter 2, understanding the 3 phases of subscription businesses, and onwards to chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And it wraps up with 15 chapters effectively, when each one of these chapters is highlighting a different key segment that is building on the next. And so we have the book idea, key quotes that were pulled from the interview, still referencing the interview for context, and then chapters that break down each individual section that we can go into much more detail with. So the book will include real world examples from Austin's experience with Proof, Conversion AI, and other subscription businesses, along with practical templates, scripts, and frameworks readers can implement on their own. And so now, in essence, I've got the idea extraction out of the way. I've got the project set up here inside of Claude, and I am in a position now to ultimately decide if I want to retry this model with extended thinking with no changes. For the sake of demonstration in this video, I'm actually going to go ahead and retry it, but I'm going to select the extended thinking because this is going to give the AI more time to review the context of what I gave it and give me another output that I'm going to review and see if that's something I want to continue to build on for moving forward with. And so if you select the extended thinking section of it, it's going to take a little bit longer. You can see it's thinking about extracting and structuring the book concepts, analyzing subscription business model, recurring revenue potential, and it's even got the timer where it's thinking here. It's at 10 seconds right now, and it's thinking. And if I expand this, you can see it literally thinking in real time as it's building this out. I'm seeing a lot of the same themes over here as I'm going through it. Why the subscription economy, find your ideal customers, problem discovery framework, building your cupcake MVP, minimum viable product, early access, not beta, creating wow moments of wow, building your community, social proof selling, agile development for subscription products, selling the transformation, not transactions. And again, if I wanted to rerun this another time, I could do so right now. And we can see that this is still, again, breaking it out. And it has actually 12 chapters, which I like, versus 15, keeping it all structured. Everything is building on top of in sequential order. So you can go chapter by chapter, and each chapter will be self-contained. And so now, with this in mind, I'm going to actually move the process forward with expanding things out. I'm going to do this by dictating what I want it to do in order to effectively start to build out and expand upon each chapter. Thanks for the detailed breakdown. I like the direction that we're going. Now I want you to start from the top in chapter 1 with the core context and everything that you've extracted from Austin and his insights and information and his knowledge, and package that up in all of the individual chapters that you've started here, starting with chapter 1. And I want to follow a format for this book, specifically with a hook, with a story, with a teaching, and then with an action item and call to action, which is directing the user to take a specific action that is relevant to that chapter of this book. Each chapter should be in itself its own bucket of information that a user or a reader can go through and read, and they can get the knowledge from the book, from the author, and then they can go and immediately put it into action. So I want to make sure that with chapter 1, that we are writing this content out. We're expanding on it in a way that is relevant, that is in our tone of voice, that you can extract and articulate from the way that the interview was conducted, and following that tone throughout the book. Before you start this, I want you to clearly articulate the tone that the book is going to be in, and then that framework that you're going to be following, along with the prompt that we will be structured and engineering as the instruction for each individual chapter, so that the format remains the same, and then it has the core content and the framework in each chapter, which we can then go through after all 12 chapters are done to expand upon and add additional editing and our own thoughts after the fact. But make sure that you incorporate everything that is relevant and helpful and useful from this interview inside of each individual chapter where it makes sense. And ultimately, we'll end up creating all 12 chapters. Well, let's start with that initial tone and context for chapter 1, and then we'll continue. So now, thinking about the book structure, analyzing Austin Distel's interview, tone, and communication style, as I want to write it in his voice. And here we go. The book will remain a conversational yet authoritative tone that mirrors Austin's style and speaking, direct and no nonsense, conversational, experience-based, occasionally irreverent, as you see, including colorful languages when it adds impact, metaphor-rich, using analogies like Hell Island versus Heaven Island, cupcake to wedding cake to make concepts stick, and confidence and inspiring. So chapter framework, hook, story, teach, action. And now we see even chapter 1, why the subscription economy. Wake up tomorrow, check your bank account, find the money has magically appeared overnight. No sales calls, no webinars, no scrambling to close your next deal. Just predictable, reliable revenue flowing while you sleep. It's not a fantasy, it's a reality of subscription businesses, and it's transforming how entrepreneurs build wealth in the digital age. So you would say in 2020, I watched my favorite food truck in Austin close down permanently. They had the best Chinese food in the city. I was a loyal customer, visited twice a week and had point card, knew the owner's name. When COVID hit, they went under within weeks. The tragedy is I would gladly have paid them $100 a month for weekly deliveries. They had raving fans who have supported them. And then you see here in contrast with Athletic Greens, which I've been paying $89 a monthly for years, I'd never made a special trip to GNC, right, the store, supplement store, or even grab protein powder at Whole Foods. But when it arrives at my door automatically, I keep paying month after month. It's part of my identity now. People ask about my health routine. Athletic Greens is the first to mention. So we see that the hook and the initial story. Now we have the teaching part. And so you can see the structure of this chapter, and all of this is pulled. I'm just reading through it, and this is all stuff that Austin talked through inside of the interview. And so me, as I'm writing this, I'm making sure that it's actually saying the information that is true and relevant, and it's not just hallucinating stuff. And so I'm making sure it's on track. It is. And you can see the trends driving growth, wealth, subscription audits, list every subscription you personally pay, and business model assessment, pain points, interview, inventory, vision, exercise, and commitment. So now we have the bones of chapter 1 written out that we can go back through and expand upon inside of the next chapter. But I like the way this is going. Now please continue with the subsequent chapters, starting with chapter 2 and moving onward, ensuring that you follow the frameworks and the context remains intact from the interview, that you do not make anything up, that you include all the relevant and insightful and actionable information following the same structure to execute all of the subsequent chapters in order. Now we have chapter 2, following that Hell Island versus Heaven Island topic that was outlined inside of the book outline, talking about whenever he met Dave, moving from Atlanta to Maryland to join his business, talking about the painful truths that keeps entrepreneurs up at night that rely on one-time sales. So you have the feast or famine cycle, the high-ticket terror. Losing just one high-ticket client could be catastrophic to your business. Talks about one agency client hadn't been paying $5,000 a month, and the other client contributed about $1,000 a month. When one left, financial cardiac arrest, infrastructure vulnerability, the fake vacation, right? You're sitting on the beach, but your mind's back at the office, cash flow crunch. And then what's life on Heaven Island look like now, right? Where here's the contrast. You got the Hell Island, and now you have the Heaven Island. Predictability, advantage, diversification, safety net, resilient revenue streams, the real vacation, and it's continuing on down this path. So I'm not going to read this all word for word, but you can see the contents here and following. All of this is pulled directly from the interview, and it's adding the writing and the context and the structure to it in this format and framework that is going to be the foundation for how this book would get built. So now we see chapter 3, finding your ideal customers, hook, story, teaching, finding your get out of bed avatar, who makes you want to throw the covers off in the morning, excited to solve their problems. It's not just about demographics or psychographics he talks about, it's about genuine connection. So questions like, ask yourself, who do I generally enjoy spending time with? Whose problems am I naturally curious about? And you can see the rest here. If you're watching the video right now, you can see and read through all of this stuff if you want to pause the video and look through and check things out. I'm not going to read it all for just the sake of time. It's all great information. Again, coming from somebody who was the marketing guy behind Jasper's success. And obviously there were other factors in play regarding the seismic growth of Jasper at the time that they came out and grew and launched to unicorn status. But it was not an accident by any means. And Austin was the guy who was driving that along with Dave and the other team at Jasper. Dave being one of the co-founders of Jasper and the other founders. Customer interview setup, right? So he talks about his customer interview questions. What's your name? If you could wave a magic wand, change one thing about your situation, what would it be? Looking back at our journey, we're helped to get you where you're at today. Great questions to ask and have on hand, and a reference in the form of a book, which is obviously why this would be a great book to have on hand. And maybe we'll make a 2.0 version of this sometime soon. If you'd like to see that book, let me know in the comments. Now we got chapter 4, problem discovery framework. Just this content alone, when I was writing the first version of this book for Austin, still took me hours of time. And we did it inside of the 7-day book challenge. And so we came out of it writing this all inside of a week's time period. And then there was the editing and the after that part that Austin spent more time on before officially publishing the book. It's all great stuff and so much faster than it would have taken me the first time writing this. And who knows how long this would have taken me to extract and write out by hand just myself without the use of Claude. It talks about the pain frequency matrix, talks about reading between the lines. The true skill in problem discovery isn't just recording what people say, it's understanding what they mean, it's paying attention to. And this content, by the way, that we're creating here would actually serve itself as being an incredibly effective instruction manual to create a custom GPT that if I'm interviewing or like looking to optimize my own subscription model or a client subscription model, I could use this book and Austin's knowledge, him as the author, as the guiding North Star for how I would want to structure my go-to-market plan for creating a subscription-based business. Interview template creation, first 5 interviews, pattern recognition. Now we're on chapter 5, building your cupcake, your MVP, minimal viable product. It says most entrepreneurs kill their subscription business before they even ever launch by trying to build the perfect product. They get stuck in the other side of adding just one more feature while their competitors get real products into the customer's hands. The secret to subscription success isn't perfection. It's starting small, getting paid, and growing through rapid improvement. This is the cupcake approach. It's how you create your first paying customers within weeks, not months or years. So here it goes into when we launched Conversion AI, we had a choice. We built a comprehensive AI writing platform with dozens of templates and features, or we start with something that solved that one specific problem really well. We chose simplicity. We focused on one skill, the AIDA copywriting framework. It wasn't randomly chosen. Our research showed this is the format most likely to create wow moments for users, and it was something marketers could immediately use to improve their business, and the results were instantly visible. They didn't offer a free trial, didn't offer a freemium version. They charged $29 a month from day one and gave a simple money-back guarantee. And see, look at that. When Darby, me, became our first customer, I didn't just test the product. I paid for it. I think I paid $100 to get the first access to it, with receipts to prove that. The payment was validation for a meaningful amount of positive feedback from, rather than any amount of positive feedback from free users. Within days, they were getting dozens of paying customers. Were they buying a perfect product? Absolutely not. Rough around the edges, missing features, limited in scope, but it solved a real problem, created genuine excitement, and started generating revenue immediately. And so he goes on to say the cupcake, birthday cake, the wedding cake progression. So you have the MVP, then you have the birthday cake and expanded product, and the mature product. Now you're looking at Jasper raising $150 million at a $1 billion plus valuation. That didn't start right at the beginning, right? They had their cupcake, and then they built and expanded into that, and that's a very large wedding cake at the end of the day. And characteristics of a good cupcake. See that here, positioning early access, not beta. And then we saw this early. You said beta is for broke. Beta means broken and it will leave you broke. When you label something as beta, you're telling customers it's not finished, it's probably broken, it's not worth paying full price for. Instead, position your cupcake as early access. This completely changes the perception. It's exclusive. Users are getting special insider privileges and they're part of something innovative and cutting edge. And I'm walking through this because, one, I think anybody that is considering adding a subscription model to their business would benefit from following what Austin is breaking down here in this specifically. And this might actually be like quite literally written better than I wrote it when I was using Jasper for the first version of this book. And that's just being totally honest with you. The quality of Claude's writing and how it's able to extract all of this information and organize it like this is so incredibly powerful. Like I did not write it to this level of meticulous, extensive detail, and it's keeping the context in line. This is, I'm reading this and I'm like, I should, I'm probably going to text Austin after this and tell him that we need to probably update your book and just include this version of the draft, or at least turn this into some sort of a blog or something that people can access to, because this is all powerful stuff. And I'd want to get his take, his review, and his eyes on it. But man, this is powerful. And so for anyone that's writing a book, you start with that interview, you or whatever client you're working with being the expert. Extracting that idea is where everything else will build on. That's the first domino in creating a great book that's going to have useful knowledge. It's going to help people get a result. And that was a 3.5 hour interview. It wasn't like we just asked a few questions to prompt into ChatGPT or Claude in this case, and it came up. But so much power in being able to effectively extract that idea inside of an interview. Talks about the psychology of beta versus early access, self-selection advantage, pricing strategy. No way that I would get this level of detail just by starting with Claude and asking it to prompt and do this. This is coming from somebody's real world experience. And again, that's the power of this AI. It's not replacing the need for authors. It's helping an author and a thought leader and someone that has this level of expertise to organize it and to format it and to structure it and to extrapolate on that. Getting into the moments of wow in chapter 7. The moment of wow when the customer experience and the value actually promised thinks, holy shit, this actually works. Without this moment, the customers drift away. The anatomy of a wow moment: speed, simplicity, relevance, personalization, emotional response. Bear in mind, I've been going through this for the past, maybe 20 minutes plus or so. We're on chapter 7. After starting with the idea and the outline in chapter 1, this is all one shot. Like I haven't prompted it again to write this out. We're on chapter 8, building your community. The most valuable asset in your subscription business isn't your product, it's your community. While competitors can copy your features, they can't replicate the bonds formed between your members. It's one of the reasons why we've stuck with our community at GenAI University all these years, is because that is the most valuable aspect of our business, is our relationship with our customers and our clients inside of our community. It's the difference between I pay for the service and I'm part of this movement, which, shameless plug, go to genaiuniversity.com and join our community. We have free resources. We also have paid resources and additional access for our members inside that community that are only available, and opportunities and deals and resources that are only for our paid members, but also tons and tons of resources, including a 7-day AI author book writing challenge that is available for free inside of our community that walks through this entire process that I'm walking through here on a day-by-day basis. We do use Jasper, we use Claude, and we use ChatGPT as examples inside of that challenge, and that framework is still relevant and applicable today. You're just going to be able to do it much faster with the latest evolvements of these tools. So you see here the science behind building community, choosing the right community platform. Ours is on Circle. Engagement is always the thing with communities, though, and that's something that Austin mentions here. Their initial community was on Facebook. Now, the Jasper community is no more. Our community is built on Circle, and there's a number of other platforms like School. Even Go High Level has their own community feature. Mighty Networks is another one on here. Discord, professional communities on Slack. And at the time of this writing, Facebook groups is where our community was even at that time. 4 community types, community activation frameworks. This is incredibly detailed. I can't even tell you, reading through this, how this is not only a blast from the past, but this is all still relevant today. And being able to learn from somebody like Austin that's done this thing successfully to a massive level of success. And now, you can see literally the outputs of that interview right here, and you do with it what you choose. But a great way to, I think, demonstrate just like the effectiveness of Claude and taking information that you may have old interviews that you've done. You may have old client interviews that you've done. And you can use this in such a similar way, even if it's just for the idea extraction for your own customers and clients and creating better products and services around that. See, now we're back down to social proof selling in chapter 9. Probably going to share this first draft inside of our community first before it ends up, if it ends up ever getting published onto Amazon or another platform. But this is super valuable stuff. If this ends up posted anywhere, it'll be posted inside of our community first. So head on over to genaiuniversity.com and join us there to get early access to it and tons of other resources to helping you with growing your business with AI. Social proof capture system, strategic social proof deployment. And we're down here to agile development for subscription products. The graveyard of failed subscription businesses is filled with perfect products that took too long to build. When Adobe first released Photoshop, it came in a physical box with the CD you'd install on your computer. Agile development, waterfall versus agile, a paradigm shift, the weekly iteration cycles. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday release, weekend feedback, Monday review, working in public, managing technical debt. Now we're on chapter 11, the path to product market fit. I heard about your AI writing tool from a friend. I need it yesterday. So when you hit that product market fit, it's where the magic happens. It's not just magic. It's isn't binary is what he says. You don't simply flip on a no fit to perfect fit. It's a spectrum. Understanding where you are on that spectrum helps you make the right strategic decision for your subscription business. Pre-fit, initial fit, expanded fit, promoter score. All great stuff here. This is more than enough for getting started with a first draft. That obviously from this point, and we'll need to transfer it, edit it, and build it out inside of a Google document or some sort of, you're going to be doing your editing at. There's a number of different tools out there. Things like Living Writer or Scrivener are very popular tools for writers and authors to organize and expand on their books. So I would take this content and then start organizing it chapter by chapter in a tool like that to make it easier to edit, make refinements, add additional context, additional stories, maybe remove stuff. Now we're at chapter 12. Selling, transformation, not transactions. Example with Athletic Greens, belief in your solutions. And now we've got the bones making the context for a book. And we have all of the chapters 1 through 12, written out. And now what we really need is the last few things to make this book really sing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 things. One, I'm going to write the conclusion to the book with the call to action. I'm going to write the author bio. And then I'm going to go take a framework that we have inside of our AI author library card that has been developed. We developed it back during these initial 7-day book challenges for writing an introduction to a book, that we're starting with the introduction at the very end so that we can wrap it all together and hook people in to the book from that. So now at the very end of this thread, I'm going to start by saying, that's great. Now I want you to write a conclusion to this book that summarizes what we talked about and wraps the book up and provides a simple call to action for people to take action on the contents of this book, and provide them a link to go back and join Austin's journey on social media, to follow him as an author, and to share your wins with him with the hashtag subscription secrets to share your journey and take the next steps towards building your first cupcake. I also want you to write a author bio and then any additional resources that would be helpful and useful for people to refer to that might have been referenced inside of this book, and information that would be useful in a resources tab. Make sure to include that as well. So it's thinking about it. Let me see here. Birthday cake. Yeah, so it's wrapping up the book, giving some actionable next steps, share your journey. Obviously, this is going to need some updating with building Jasper to the unicorn that it is and making an exit from the company now. He's on to different ventures as well. Let me see. Resources, Typeform, Grain, Loom, Facebook, Circle, Discord, Testimonial. Has given them tons of resources in here. And that, basically from that point, now what I'm going to do is I've pulled up my library card, which again, if you have access to our community, you can get access to the library card for free inside of our community. So go ahead over to genaiuniversity.com and join to get access to our library card in our free resources section. Now what I can do, copy this format. Now write an introduction. And I'm giving it this because we spent a lot of time figuring out the best framework for nonfiction type of books like this. And this was consistently what the top books and similar sort of categories would follow and answer. So I'm going to write a draft of the introduction. And I can always come back to this Claude project. And this is just in an hour how we get started writing the draft for our book from that initial interview. See, introduction, from unpredictable hustle to sustainable wealth in 12 months. Book description. The hook. This book is for you. Skeptics read this. How this book is different. How to read this book. My story. And then there you have it. We've got the idea extracted. We've got the introduction written. We've got all the chapters drafted and the conclusion, the resources section, and the author bio. Look at that. Wow. Talk about how to use Claude to help you with writing a book here in 2025. I hope you found this helpful and useful, and seeing how you can take an interview from either yourself or another expert and utilize Claude and a project inside Claude to very quickly set up the context and the knowledge that it's going to be referencing, give it a super simple prompt to start extracting the knowledge, and then having it expand on that, keeping all the core context and the information intact from the initial interview. We've just drafted that first draft of the book here, I think in less than an hour. And now it's on to the next steps of refining that draft, adding in anything else that I think would be relevant if I'm the author or the ghostwriter, confirming this draft with my client, and then refining things, editing them, then formatting them, and ultimately getting them out to the point of publishing, even getting them to the hands of your early adopters and early access to your readers to give you that initial feedback. Use this process to create your own minimum viable book. Use this process to not only understand how to create a book, but what is this going to open up as a possibility for your business? We just demonstrated the book for you, but this could also be done in the form of a course. It could be done in the form of a number of other things, from client idea discovery, product improvements, and so many other things that could ultimately lead back to helping you build and improve on your skills of using and leveraging AI to grow and scale your business. I hope you found this useful. Please, if you did, and comment and let us know what you found most useful from this. And be sure to join our community at genaiuniversity.com. to get access to a ton of free resources like our AI Author Library Card, our AI Author Book Writing Challenge, and so much more inside of our Market Sauce Studio and our Scale with AI summits, workshops, hackathons, and other events that we host at Gen AI University. And then share this with somebody that you think might find it useful too. If you know somebody that has a book inside of their head that they need to get out of their head and onto paper to make a greater impact in the world, then Claude can help you do it. And I hope that you get your book out of your head and onto paper in record time using, whether it's AI or not. If you have that idea that needs to get out, I would encourage you to take action on it and share your results and your progress with us here at Gen AI University. We look forward to hearing from you. And as always, until next time, keep calm and AI on. I'll see you on the other side. Darby here from GenAIUniversity.com. Cheers.